Cheers, my booktube friends. I am in a Airbnb or a short-term rental house here in Ashland, Oregon, the home of the what's it called? The Oregon Shakespeare Festival. That's what it's called. And I bought some T-shirts because I was sweating through all my clothes. I needed more T-shirts, so I got that, and I got this Macbeth shirt. My daughter and I have seen Macbeth a few days ago, and tonight we're going to see a dramatic version of Jane Eyre on an outdoor stage with my daughter, my wife, and one of her sisters, and my brother-in-law, good people. And so we've been exploring the little tourist town of Ashland, and there's a nice little bookstore. There's some other bookstores too. I haven't explored them all, but it is called the Book Exchange in downtown Ashland, and it had a lot of nice used books. And I focused, as is often my way when in a used bookstore, on old pulpy looking paperbacks. So I think they're all from the 60s, maybe the 50s, some of them. Yeah, this one is from 1962, this printing, but it's a book from the 40s, I believe, or no, the 30s. The 39 Steps, which is the basis loosely for Alfred Hitchcock's movie, The 39 Steps. And I watched that movie recently with my mom, and she really liked it a lot. And I kind of thought it wasn't as good as other early Hitchcock movies. But anyway, I thought she might get a kick out of having the book version since she liked the movie. Although I just like this cover too. Part of me wants to just collect it for the cover. But I will give that to my mom. And my daughter picked out this book. I don't know if it's from the YA section or not. It's a Del Rey book. The Bear and the Nightingale. The book one of the New York Times bestselling Winter Night trilogy by Catherine Arden. I know nothing about this, but I thought I'd show you what my 16-year-old is picking up. She's more judicious than me. I go crazy in bookstores. So then I've never heard of this science fiction writer. It's an old ace science fiction book, The Lord of Death and the Queen of Life by everything's for some reason backwards on my iPad. I got a new iPad, and maybe there's some setting where I can make it look the right way around. But I assume you'll see it the right way around. It's by Homer Eon Flint. That kind of well, back in the old days, people did have names like that, but it kind of sounds like a pseudonym. When is this from? Someone named D.W. Nichols stamped his name in it. And it is, wow, it originally appeared in Argosy All Story Weekly in 1919. And this edition, it doesn't say, but I would guess the early 60s, or maybe mid 60s. I like that cover. Pretty crazy. So this is really old. I don't know if it's Mercury or Venus, death or life. Such was the riddle posed to the four pioneers who first voyaged to those worlds. So it is really early science fiction. Not science fiction, and a reprint of old pulp stuff that is now pretty much not acceptable in our society. So I don't think this stuff will ever be reprinted. And I certainly don't agree with the stereotypes that probably are contained in here. But I am sort of fascinated by odd things that are markers of their time. And The Return of Dr. Fu Manchu by Sax Rohmer. I first learned about Fu Manchu because he was the father of Shang-Chi in The Master of Kung Fu in 1970s Marvel Comics. So I guess they bought the rights, or licensed the rights for Fu Manchu, but then didn't give him his own comic, just had him be the father of this hero. So the hero had to fight his father, who was evil. This is copyright 1916. So there was a lot of fear of the yellow peril. And of course, Asian people do not have yellow skin, but somehow people thought they did. I don't know. I wonder how those things happen, because it doesn't really make sense. Okay, this I'm pretty sure is very junky stuff. I think I read one of these Alan Burt Akers stories in my childhood, in my youth, but I don't remember much about it. But looking at it, it seems to be sort of a Edgar Rice Burroughs inspired type of adventure. Some, swordsman on another planet, and it's his memoirs of his adventures. And I believe this might not be the one, but there is one of these where eventually they just put the name of the hero as the author. I'm not sure if it was this series or not. Saga of Prescott of Antares. And then I love the ace doubles, and I don't think I already have this one, although I didn't have my list of ace doubles with me. This is the Wandering Tellurian. Would his superpowers help backward planets? Sorry, not his super weapons. So that sounds intriguing. And I like this cover, The Key to Irunium by Kenneth Balmer. Oh, I set an alarm for myself. And Kenneth Balmer's a very familiar name, but I don't know if I've read much by him. Mission to Another Dimension. And the cover is a collage. It very much of its time, of the maybe the late 60s. Let's see. The cover's by Gray Morrow, one of my favorite illustrators, but I think it's more of a collage than from 1967. I like books that have little illustrations in them. I don't know if there'll be any others besides that one. Let's see on the other book. Yeah, the other one does not have an illustration, the flip side. Anyway, love these. Enjoy collecting these flip books. Hopefully I will read most of the ones I've collected. But I don't hold myself to, when I'm collecting these pulpy paperbacks, that I have to read them all. It's more the pleasure of picking them up for not very much money, of course. I'm not going to blow the family fortune on them. This is The Man Who Sold the Moon by Robert E. Howard, and it basically is 4 novelettes, I believe, I think mostly from his early astounding science fiction days. The introduction is copyright 1949, but this says first printing 1951. So there must be a different edition that maybe had more stories that came out in 1949, probably in hardback from a small press. So this is a very early, because paperbacks really cottoned on to science fiction pretty late, after the golden age ended. So yeah, the first printing of this was 1951, but this is the second printing, 1959. Somehow I imagine that might be what Robert Heinlein looked like in the 50s, but I'm not sure. Cool cover. And then I got A is for Andromeda. This one was more expensive than the others, and I'm not quite sure why, but in the end I decided to get it because Fred Hoyle was a famous popularizer of astronomy, I think in the 50s and 60s perhaps, and he still was around when I was a kid reading books about astronomy. So I was kind of curious to see what his science fiction would be like. Not only, and one of his what he's now famous for is that he is the one who hated the idea of the Big Bang. He believed, I guess, in the steady state theory of the universe. But in his arguing against the theory of a big beginning, he jokingly trying to insult it, called it the Big Bang, and that name stuck. So Fred Hoyle named the Big Bang, even though he didn't believe in it. And it looks like he has another book called Andromeda Breakthrough. I'm assuming A is for Andromeda is the first book, but it doesn't really say. And he did a book on his own, so this is with a co-writer, John Elliott. He did a book on his own called October the 1st is Too Late. So, and in the copyright, it's copyright Professor Fred Hoyle. And then I picked up this comics-related book, Superman at 50. I think Superman is now a little over 80, maybe about 84. So this was published, I think, in the late 80s, and it's just a series of essays. There are a few pictures, a series of essays about Superman, including one by Dennis O'Neil, who was a Superman writer in the 60s, late 60s, and I'm very interested to read. There's a one by Kurt Swan, who drew Superman for 30 years. So he writes something about drawing Superman. And then there's a variety of other articles on a variety of different subjects involving Superman. On the back, it says Harlan Ellison on Superman. It has a quote, and it says it's from Superman at 50. But so far, I've been scrubbing through this book, and I haven't found anything inside the book written by Harlan Ellison. I'm not sure if I'm I'm just missing it somehow. I'll look again. And finally, I bought an actual comic, a reprint graphic novel of Blue Bolt, who was a creation of Jack Kirby, one of the most famous comic book artists of all time, and Joe Simon. They were co-creators of Captain America, amongst others. So Blue Bolt was an early character they created, and it's been being reprinted by Verotic Comics, which is the comic book company owned by the rock star Glenn Danzig, the hard rock star Glenn Danzig. So that's interesting that Glenn Danzig decided to reprint these, probably out of copyright comics, I assume. The reproduction can be a bit dicey, but still I was kind of excited to find it. I've never read any Blue Bolt comics. So that's it. I'm having a good time in Ashland. Maybe I'll toss in here at the end a little slideshow of a few pictures, and I will try to come back. I know I haven't been on BookTube for a very long time. That was not intentional. And I have a number of videos I'd like to make. So I hope I'll be talking to you again soon.